Hello, this is R&R Showtime with Robert.
And Ryan.
So today we are going to be discussing Wonder Woman versus Aquaman, comparing them and in some ways trying to debate which one is a better movie.
Wonder Woman 1984, to be clear.
Yeah, 1984 to be correct.
If it was Wonder Woman,
yeah,
that's the best. That's the better movie.
Yeah, Wonder Woman, the first one is just, that's one of the best DC films made. So that's not a question today.
But we think that there is an argument to be had on whether or not Wonder Woman 1984 or the Aquaman movie from 2018, which one of them is a better movie. Well, let's just get this right out of the way. I'm going to be on the side of Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, and I'm on the side of Aquaman.
Yeah. So we're going to start by talking about our impressions of the two movies. We're going to go with Wonder Woman 84 first. We both watched the movie twice. On my first viewing of the movie, I thought it was a bunch of fun. I thought it was pretty great, to be honest with you. And then I started listening to all the criticisms of the movie. And, I agreed with a lot of them. I started having questions about the movie. And just last night or yesterday, I rewatched it again and I still had a great time. I still thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so my first impressions, I came into it pretty excited. I think everybody was excited to see a new feature-length film.
Yes, so was I.
Yeah, one that was supposed to come out in March of 2020, or March or April, I think it was.
And I think it was supposed to be like a summer movie.
Yeah, and then so we had COVID, obviously, and that just derailed everything. But I think everybody was really excited to see that, and I was as well. I watched it with a few friends, with the kind of the home movie experience, and I was disappointed. I think there are some things that are good in it, and I enjoyed, but by the end of the movie, I was just kind of asking myself, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think I went into the movie with a lot of high expectations as well. I didn't expect it to be as good as the first Wonder Woman, and I really wasn't sure what to expect from this movie at all. And it gave me 100% nothing that I expected, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Now, Aquaman, on the other hand, that movie we both saw in theaters for the first time together. And I remember I take this memory very clearly that as we walked out of the theater, it was you, me, our dad, and Salem, my best friend. We all watched the movie. It was sort of like a declining scale of opinions of the movie. My dad walked out saying that movie was great. Bob walked out saying, oh, that was good. I walked out saying that wasn't very good. And Salem hated that movie.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I didn't really like the movie. There were things about it that I appreciated, but I walked out like, man, that wasn't very good at all.
Yeah. And honestly, I went in there and I thought I had a really good time. In the past, really was disappointed with DC overall. I don't think it needs to be talked about very much. What Batman versus Superman and Justice League were, and Suicide Squad. If you enjoyed that movie, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I think all those movies are hot garbage.
Batman v Superman is absolute trash. Suicide Squad had moments that I thought were fun.
Yeah, it's carried by Will Smith and Margot Robbie. So you got some decent actors in there that just kind of carry the. But yeah, no, I don't like any of those movies. I think they're bad. I feel bad that I spent money to watch Batman versus Superman, and I even said I'm not going to give them any more of my money. I'm just not going to do it. So Aquaman was actually I don't know if I actually paid for it, but
I think I paid because we watched it. We watched it XD all together. It was after Wonder Woman made things better again.
Yeah, Wonder Woman came out. I was like, oh my god, DC's actually making good movies, and so I didn't really feel bad. I frankly enjoyed Aquaman. I think it was I thought it was a spectacle for sure.
I think it came out. I can't remember if it was right. I think it was right before Shazam, which Shazam was on one of the better ones as well.
Yeah, I also enjoyed Shazam. Thought it was pretty good too. But that's another show.
But yeah, for the DC universe, I honestly put Wonder Woman 84 and Aquaman kind of right in my dead center. On I would put Wonder Woman on the better half, and I would put Aquaman sort of on the worse half. But I put Aquaman notably above all the trash heap beneath it. And I put Wonder Woman 84 notably below all of the good above it.
Yeah, and me and Ryan had discussed this previously, and I had the same we almost had a very similar ranking overall, except that was one of the things that we were divided on. Is that I thought Aquaman was notably better, and I thought Wonder Woman was a little the same, basically the same sentiment except flipped.
Yeah. But yeah, so we just rewatched Aquaman again, though.
Literally an hour before this podcast.
Yeah. And I think I like it a little more than I remember, but I still think I think Wonder Woman 84 is still a better movie.
Yeah. I would say rewatching it right now, Ryan had kind of mentioned it'd been so long since watching Aquaman. I just remember that I enjoyed it. And Ryan had suggested there was a bit of ridiculousness in the movie that Wonder Woman also has some of. And I couldn't remember what was ridiculous about Aquaman until I rewatched it. So I definitely give him some credit there that he was right. There's definitely some ridiculous, but my opinion has not changed. I still think it's better than Wonder Woman.
And we're gonna talk it through, and we're gonna. I don't think either of us are trying to change each other's mind. We're just trying to have a conversation here.
Yeah.
And we're going to begin by talking about the plots of the two movies. One of the movies is going to be a little more easy to describe, I'm going to say.
Spoilers ahead.
Yes. For a 2-year-old movie and a 1-month-old movie.
Yeah, I mean, that one's pretty fresh though. So, yeah, if you haven't seen the movies, go watch them.
Yes. So
maybe not Wonder Woman.
No, you should. It's coming off HBO Max by the time that this is going out, so I don't know how to watch it. You probably got to pay for it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Probably cheaper than paying for a month of HBO Max, I would hope, though.
Yeah, potentially.
All right.
It's a pretty fresh movie, but... All right, Ryan, would you like to do maybe the plot of Wonder Woman?
Yeah, so Wonder Woman 1984, we see Diana... Well, the movie actually begins back in... Diana's childhood in Themyscira, where she's competing in this event. It's never really detailed exactly what this event is, but she's competing against her fellow Amazonians. And through the course of the event, she tries to take a shortcut, and she is stopped by her mentor, Robin Wright, telling her, you can't take shortcuts. You need to have the truth. The truth is everything. Clear theme. We're going to come back into themes later in the podcast, but telegraphing theme. And then we go forward to 1984, where Diana's been doing her Wonder Womaning stuff. She's just trying to keep it a little on the hush. She stops this heist at the mall, and as a result of that, her work at the Smithsonian comes across these trafficked gems that were going through the mall. And there we see Kristen Wiig's character, who is meeting Diana for the first time, presumably, even though they both work at the Smithsonian, whatever. And they come across this dreamstone, which we later see Diana discovers was being trafficked to Pedro Pascal's character, Max Lord. But this stone is a sort of legendary wishing dreamstone where any person who makes a wish on it has the wish come true, but we find out that there are consequences of it. Diana makes a wish to bring back her old boyfriend, Steve Trevor. That's his name, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve. It's Steve.
Yeah. Chris Pine.
Chris Pine.
Kristen Wiig wishes to be like Diana. And then Max Lord, played by Pedro Pascal, gets his hand on the stone, and he wishes to be the Dreamstone. And that's sort of where things take off from there.
And that's where the movie just goes off the rails.
I sort of agree with you. And we see Diana sort of struggling to stop Max Lord in his taking with the Dreamstone and sort of going power crazy, giving people wishes and taking from them. He's sort of being consumed by the power of the Dreamstone. It's a very clear sort of 80s capitalism. I've even heard people say that he sort of looks like a Trump in the 80s. Like his face, like his makeup and stuff, he kind of looks like Trump. But he's just sort of just doing all this greedy stuff. And we see Kristen Wiig's character like going from this nice, timid lady. Now that she has Diana's confidence and grace and beauty and power, she's being corrupted by it. She's losing her humanity. and Diana is losing her powers, and Max Lord is losing his health and possibly his son as well. I'm trying to think.
This is where we got to take a moment because the plot gets thick.
Yeah, so basically Max Lord's goal is to use other people making wishes to he uses the power of the Dreamstone to, as he gives people wishes, he can take things from them. And he sort of, as the Dreamstone has his own influence over what he can take from people, which is I think it's kind of an interesting concept. It's not quite a monkey's paw. The movie makes it out to be the monkey's paw, but it's more like just a give and take, not always having a sort of definitive rhyme or reason. It just sort of happens. And we eventually get to the point where Diana, Wonder Woman, realizes that she needs to give up her wish. She eventually is willing to give up her wish so that she can save the day, because as much as she loves Steve is gone. The Steve that she has there isn't really Steve. He took over another person's body. That's another thing to get into.
Yeah, that'll be something we'll bring up later.
But yeah, she remembers the truth, and the truth is all that there is. And the truth is he's gone. And so we have her come face down with Max Lord, who by the end of the movie is broadcasting on every screen in the world, giving people their wishes. And she comes to him to try and appeal to his better nature, gets a lasso of truth on him. At this point, also, Kristen Wiig has turned into a cheetah character, fully cheetah animalistic form, because she's completely lost her humanity at this point, and all she wants to do is an apex predator, and Max Lord has given that to her, but at what cost? But she comes and she tries to appeal not only to Max Lord's humanity, but to the world's humanity, that the truth is what matters. The truth is what you can't take shortcuts. You can't just wish things better. You need to, the theme gets a little bit muddled. We're going to get into that later, but she convinces the world to renounce their wishes because, the world's on the verge of nuclear apocalypse, basically, if they don't. So people start to renounce their wishes, and Max Lord renounces his wishes when the lasso of truth shows him that his son is out there all alone in this world that's very dangerous. Like, the world's kind of imploding in that moment, and his son's all alone. And in that moment, he realizes that he'd rather have his son than the power. And we get this very touching moment with his son. And the movie ends. It's Christmas. Diana sees the person that Steve sort of inhabited. And it's just this sort of like sweet, touching end about finding the beauty in the world as it is. You can't have everything you want, but the truth is that from a certain lens, the world can be beautiful. That's sort of what I took from it. Now, let's talk about Aquaman.
Yeah. So, Aquaman. We start...
Can I just say, the story of Aquaman is the true king of the ocean. He just needs to get the trident. And when he gets the trident, he becomes the king of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot more to go into, but
yeah,
there's a reason why I wanted to say one of these movies is going to be easier to sum up.
Yeah. If we tried, we'd probably sum up Wonder Woman a lot quicker. Bad guy gets wishing stone. Wonder Woman has to stop him. Yeah, but Wonder Woman succeeds.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. But yeah, so do you want to go in depth?
Aquaman. We start. Lighthouse keeper finds a woman washed up on shore. Finds out she's an Atlantean. They fall in love. They have a kid. She's not only an Atlantean, she's an Atlantean queen. And after them living together for a few years and raising their child, eventually some warriors of Atlantis come back and say, you need to come back. She returns to keep him safe. And the boy grows up to be essentially Aquaman. This is post Justice League. So at this point, Aquaman has been kind of discovered and known about and helped to save the world. And eventually he is approached by Mira, a character in the story who is betrothed to his half-brother, and says, you need to come back and you need to come challenge your brother for the throne and prevent him from essentially starting a war with the surface. King Orm is orchestrating events so that he can essentially literally attack the surface world and overtake them. He says with the combined power of these 7 kingdoms under the ocean, of which there's only 4 that are essentially valid anymore, I guess.
He needs 4 of the 7 to get a majority.
Yeah, one of them are gone, the deserters, and one of them are turned into monsters, the trench. But of the other 5 that are still valid and real kingdoms, he needs 4 of them to decide that they're going to attack the surface world together. I don't understand why. I mean, if they have enough armies with some of them, what are the other ones going to do? But that's just how it works.
He wants the title of Ocean Master.
Yeah, he wants the title of Ocean Master, which if you get 4 of the kingdoms to swear allegiance to you, you are the Ocean Master.
Apparently,
Master of the Ocean. Yeah. So, she beckons Aquaman come back and do this. He says no at first, but then after a tidal wave almost kills his dad, he's like, all right, let's go down there and stop him. Goes down there, is told by a previous mentor, the advisor to the king, who trained him as a boy as well to use the trident and how to use his powers and all that, that there is a spectacular trident of Atlan that allows him to be the true master of the ocean and control the seas, and that if he retrieves it, then he'll really be able to beat his brother. His brother finds out about this, challenges him to a battle to become the true rightful heir.
He doesn't find out about the trident thing.
He does not find out. He finds out about their meeting, that he is there, Aquaman is there, and challenges him to a battle. They fight, and it is apparent that he is probably going to win when Mira comes and saves him and says, let's go. We need to go find this trident. They have to journey to where the land of the deserters were, which is in the Saharan desert.
Yep.
And take this device, which they previously had, that had the clue to where it was stored, where the king of Atlantis hid it. They go there. They're able to get the message. They then have their heading, and they go to Italy, where they have an interaction with Black Manta. Now, I kind of skipped ahead, but earlier in the story, there is a scene that shows Arthur save a bunch of men in a submarine from pirates, one of the pirates being Black Manta, as he is before he's officially Black Manta. In this interaction, Black Manta's father is there. They are fighting with Aquaman. He fires a grenade launcher, which then floods the ship with water and makes a torpedo fall on top of him and pin him. Black Manta tries to move the torpedo, cannot, begs Aquaman to help him, and Aquaman basically says, asks the sea for help and abandons them. And so Black Manta's father says, you need to get out of here and you need to go kill him to avenge what's happening because I'm going to die. And Black Manta leaves infuriated, and as we mentioned, comes back later when they are on their mission. And we also see that during this time, King Orm actually had hired him to get the submarine so that he could orchestrate these events and make it look like the surface attacked them. And then he hires Black Manta again and gives him special weaponry to be able to fight Aquaman to go and pursue him later. He pursues him, but Aquaman is able to overcome him in the end. Mira gets both of them on a boat to head towards where they've discovered the trident is supposed to be hidden.
In the trench.
Where the trench people are, who are these crazy monsters essentially.
Yeah.
They make their way through the trench people, avoiding them and not getting completely swallowed and destroyed by them, and are able to find this portal into the hidden sea realm that's at the center of the earth, supposedly. They go there. Aquaman proves to this ginormous beast that guards the trident that he is the one that deserves to wield it, and claims the armor as well, having the iconic Aquaman look, the orange and green from the past, and comes back with the giant Leviathan to defeat the now warring underwater armies of Orm and the other one of the other 7 nations, where he's trying to conquer them, and then beats Orm in a battle to finally proclaim that he is the one true king, and all the other nations do bow down to him and give him allegiance, as he now bears the trident and beats Orm in battle. And At the end, his mother and father return to each other. Oh, he discovered his mother was down there. She had maybe died, and they said some stuff about it.
But she was just trapped there because she couldn't get out without the trident.
Yeah. So, and that's generally the plot of Aquaman.
Yeah. So the reason why before you started, I wanted to say that the plot was rather simple is that both of these movies are about 2.5 hours long. And I think both of them are a little overlong. I think both of them have a lot of stuff that could have been cut out, but the stuff that should have been that should have been cut out was different between the two movies. Whereas I think, and I've heard a lot, that the part of Wonder Woman that should have been cut out was some of the Diana and Steve going through the Smithsonian stuff, that was kind of boring. I would argue that Aquaman's kind of filled with a lot of filler action sequences.
Yeah, potentially, but I think maybe that's even what Aquaman, part of it is what it is. It is a big spectacle, awesome action-packed movie. I mean, in some ways, I've heard a lot of criticism about Wonder Woman that it doesn't, I mean, it has a few action scenes, but it has a lot of very slow moments where you're kind of losing interest almost. Not that some of the events aren't important, but I mean, yeah, those scenes with Steve are not really integral. There might be some value there in seeing Steve's reaction to the world, but yeah, I can see why those don't need to be there. I mean, that doesn't really necessarily keep our interest. We're just watching Steve react to stuff, and maybe it's a little bit amusing, but at least the scenes in Aquaman are what they are. They're badass action scenes in a superhero movie.
Yes, but I just think sometimes if there's too much action, maybe you start to lose the appeal of what's going on. So Wonder Woman, let's think. We begin with Themyscira. That's a sort of action set piece. Her battling in the mall. And then for a while, we don't get any sort of action scenes until we see her with the cars in the Middle East trying to stop Max Lord. Then the next big action sequence, I believe, is at the White House with Kristen Wiig beginning her sort of descent into Cheetah. And then we get that final action set piece with her fully Cheetah. There's 5 notable action sequences. I kind of remember what they all look like. They kind of stand out in my mind. Aquaman, we have the Queen battling in the beginning. We have the Black Manta, first time you see him sequence.
Yeah, in the submarine.
We have
after that, then we get to, I mean, I think the next time he fights is with Orm.
No, we have him battling in the little ship alcove at the bottom of Atlantis.
Okay.
Then maybe about 5 minutes later is the battle with Orm. Then we have a little time passes before we have the Black Manta showing up in Italy to battle him.
Return of Black Manta.
Then we have the trench sequence with all of them piling on the boat.
Yeah, they battle on the boat, and then they're really just running away from them in the water. So.
Yeah. And then we have Aquaman dealing with the Leviathan at first, where there's a little bit of fighting before it happens. And then the end of the movie is probably about 10 straight minutes of like battling and fighting.
Yeah.
So to be fair, it's 8 versus 5 action set pieces, but a lot of the action in this movie feels a little more muddied. Like you didn't even remember that little fight sequence that happened before he gets captured and fights Orm. And those moments were set about 5 minutes apart. So it was literally fighting, talking about the next fight that's going to happen, and then a fight. And then
but it wasn't just talking about the next fight that's going to happen.
It was more or less setting up that they were about to fight. And then once that fight ends, it's them leaving the fight. There's an action sequence of them escaping the fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it's fair that Aquaman has a lot of action, but I mean, I think what do a lot of people want to see, I think, when they go to see a superhero movie is, I mean, I think they want to see action movies. We want substance. We certainly want more than just fighting. I think that's important, but I think that movie has a lot of really excellent fight scenes. I mean,
yes.
Even the one I forgot, I mean, there's a moment where he, elite commando in their red special armor comes up and draws his sword, and they have this like standoff moment, and then they have like a good back and forth battle. I mean, and we're really seeing exhibiting these crazy kicks and these guys flying. So these action scenes are pretty entertaining.
Yes, but they're good. But if you do it too much, so that it's so much to the point that when we got to Black Manta coming back with his suit and everything, I kind of didn't care anymore. I was like, Black Manta was interesting, but like Mira fighting those same fish guards again, we've seen these fish guards get fought by literally, we saw Queen Mira do it, we saw Aquaman do it, and now or Queen Atlanta do it, we saw Aquaman do it, and now we're seeing Mira do it. It kind of got a little like, yeah, like they're going to beat these guys. Black Manta was a little interesting, but it wasn't that much of the fight. And he already beat Black Manta. Sure, he has a better suit now, but.
Yeah, I think that's actually fair. I think seeing Mira fight them again is kind of, what is the point of seeing all this? Why are we spending so much time watching her fight them? I mean, I'd actually rather see a more protracted battle between Aquaman and Black Manta. I think it's important. Seeing him again, I think is important. It's you see him when he's basically fighting as a human, and he stood against Aquaman, but he was clearly outmatched in his power. He did not have the real capacity to even hurt him.
Yeah,
but he did have the know-how and the ability to fight him, and he was smart enough to be able to do some things to combat Aquaman. You add that to him then being granted the weaponry and the ability to really inflict real damage to him, then it becomes more of almost an even fight. I mean, Aquaman's still pretty difficult, but it shows when he gets shot with that laser, like it burns Aquaman's arm. So we know that laser can really do damage to him.
But to be fair, he only got shot by the plasma because he didn't expect it to be damaging to him. So it literally caught him off guard, and he was protecting Mira with that.
Yeah. So I mean,
he didn't get hit again by that plasma shot after he knew how dangerous it was.
Yeah. So I mean, but
it was basically a sucker punch.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but still, I mean, that is inherently, he's not necessarily meant to win thematically, but he is a human. He's a human man, and he's doing what he can to fight someone that's essentially a god. And so it's more of a fair matchup, and it's still significant. And he is a nemesis. So this is the Aquaman movie. Anybody that knows a little bit about Aquaman would know Black Manta is one of his rivals, nemesis that we wanted. I mean, we like to see them.
Yeah, Ocean Master and Black Manta.
Yeah. I would say, though, that I did even mention to Ryan right after we watched the movie that Black Manta, he could not even be in the movie, potentially. This could actually be...
I want to get into this later.
Yeah. This could be taken out entirely from the movie. You could lower the amount of things that are going on and make this the whole beginning of the second movie and the main points of the next movie.
So, yeah.
So that's fair, but...
Take some of the unnecessary action sequences out, and you have a more refined movie. We almost get like this sort of fetch quest thing where that big stretch between action sequences, what was the interesting stuff that was happening? Aquaman and Mira walking through the desert, and then Aquaman and Mira teleporting to Italy and walking through Italy.
Yeah, definitely teleporting. Again, on my second watch through, I was definitely even pointing out some of the silly things here. And I definitely pointed out that they went from Sahara Desert, that they specifically say in the movie, we're stranded and we don't know where we are, to they made it to Italy. So
yeah,
I don't know how exactly that happened, but we'll just take it, right?
Yeah.
And I give that credit that, there is a little bit of ridiculousness in Aquaman. But I mean, again, if we want to start talking about some of the ridiculousness, like we get into the wishing of Wonder Woman, which, I mean, there are some perceived rules about this wishing stone, but then they just kind of keep changing it or saying, like, let's just throw it all out the window. And by the end of the movie, I mean, literally the entire world is practically wishing forever, whatever they want. And we see little instances of singular people saying, oh, I want this. Like one person wishes someone was dead.
Yeah.
One person wishes for literally nuclear weapons. I mean, and we already know there's nuclear bombs being fired in the air. How are we to know that someone didn't just go, man, I hate everything. I wish the world exploded. I mean, are we to believe that there weren't some catastrophic things wished for?
Well, things were about to happen. Yeah, the world was about to explode.
Yeah, was the world about to explode? I mean, of course it was in the sense that all those nuclear missiles being fired, but where was the more significant? Am I led to believe that this many wishes are getting made, and that, and I guess, Max Lord can wipe it all away by doing his wish, but
no. So the point I made to you before that we lost was that once Max Lord announces his wish, I believe that all the wishes that were done through him will be gone. So that's sort of your resolution there. We do see people renouncing their wishes, and I think that's good thematically. It's a good representation. But once he's no longer the Dreamstone, I feel like all of the wishes granted through him are made invalid.
Right. I just believe in that time, like again, nuclear bombs are launching, the world is essentially exploding, but nobody made a more fundamentally world-ending wish. Again,
Yeah, they
where's the
probably
depressed guy that said, "I wish everybody died. I wish every the racist guy that says, yeah, I just wish all the the person of this race were just gone or dead or something like
and
that."
we saw stuff like that happening. The Dreamstone doesn't always just snap, things happen. Sometimes things have to play out.
But sometimes it does snap and make things happen. Literally, I mean, we see the president even say, "I just felt like I was in another place, and now I'm here." I mean, it definitely has some. It's weird what the rules on the Dreamstone are. That I mean, does it have to make things seem reasonable and manifest them in some sort of make sense way, or I mean, it literally made a wall just pop out of the ground around an entire city, so it can clearly just make things happen.
Yeah, but it's different. And see, I think the world ending stuff, I don't know. I think the world was about to end. So if people were wishing for that, it was going to happen. It was just going to happen. I don't know how many people were making that wish, though. I think if people had any wish in the world, that the idea was that people were going to make selfish wishes because it's the 80s and people are in a sort of greed is good mentality. But yeah, so we see everybody renounce their wish except for Barbara. That's, I think, Kristen Wiig's character. We never see her renounce her wish.
Barbara Minerva.
Yeah. We never see her renounce her wish. So I want to touch on her a little more later. But yeah, everyone renounces their wish. But most importantly, Max Lord renounces his wish. And so that clears out everything. I think the next thing we started to talk about was me pushing back to Aquaman and how I think that movie gets a little messy with how much it has to introduce with the 7 kingdoms of the fish and all these brand new characters. So
yeah, you said that the ridiculous thing about that was that there's all these 7 kingdoms and that we're introducing all these different things. And I think I understood kind of where you're coming from because you did make a point about characters. You kind of counted them out a little bit.
Yeah. So in Aquaman, as the introductory movie, Aquaman, we know him, but we're also introduced to his mom, Queen of Atlantis, his dad, who's a fisherman. We're given an idea about the king of Atlantis, who is the former king, who's the father of King Orm.
But to be fair, we didn't actually meet him. He's just referenced.
So. Yeah. But he is a character that exists, and we're supposed to remember his name and know what he did, banishing the queen. There's Black Manta's father, who's more just a imprint on him. There's Mira's father, played by Dolph Lundgren. There's Willem Dafoe's character, who I think I forgot when we were capping this, and I lost the audio. I think that's it.
Yeah, you also mentioned,
and then all the kingdoms.
All the kingdoms and all the different things.
The fishermen who are like fish people. We don't really know what's the big difference between the Atlanteans and the people that Mira and Dolph Lundgren are representing. Do they all have that sort of water control power, or is that just Mira? We never see the king do that. So what's the deal with that? The fishermen people, those are fishy people. Then there's like the crab people that they're fighting towards the end of the movie, the trench people, the deserters who are in the desert. It's just kind of a big lore dump. And I started to compare in Wonder Woman, the lore we get, the fundamental like backstory lore of Wonder Woman is Themyscira, Amazonians, put there by Zeus or Hera, or I can't remember specifically, but it's like the gods put the Amazonians, protected them in this little world. And we're introduced to her mom and her basically aunt, mentor figure, Robin Wright. And then the rest of the movie is set in the real world with real people, real archetypal type characters. So it's easy to understand who these people are.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that I don't feel that in Aquaman it's necessarily too much. I guess you do make a good
What's
point.
Willem Dafoe's character's name?
Volko.
Is it Volko?
Yeah.
Is it Volku?
Yeah, Volko. I mean, again, but we know who he is. He's the advisor to the king, and he was the guy that trained Aquaman. Again, if you don't remember him as a character, not too big a deal. Again, you know that he was a device in the movie, and he did what he had to do.
When you left Wonder Woman, did you forget?
I've forgotten all of that squad's name. I don't know any of those guys' names.
No, but did you forget Robin Wright, the mentor that taught Diana? Did you forget who she was?
Did I forget who she was? No.
You might not have forgotten her name, but did you forget about her? I forgot Willem Dafoe was in that movie.
Oh, well,
Wonder Woman came out before Aquaman. I never forgot that lady was in it. I never forgot the impact that she had on Diana. And she's fundamentally the same, supposed to be the same character as Willem Dafoe, training Aquaman as a kid. I did not remember he was in that movie at all. I assumed that he was training with, I forgot that he was being trained by an Atlantean.
Okay, but that might be a personal thing. I did, yeah. I remember that he got trained by he was trained by Willem Dafoe in that movie. I mean, so that might be a personal thing. But you could be right. Maybe maybe he's forgettable. Maybe he's just a plot device. Maybe he's just there to be the guy that trained Aquaman and make that make sense and introduce some things. Then that's just what he is. He introduced, like, maybe he's not as important as Robin Wright. That's immaterial to the idea that, I mean, it's we get a lot of information, but you do need to understand all this just to be. This movie is, here's Aquaman, here's how he got here, and we have to learn about the Seven Kingdoms. We have to know that he commands all these things. It takes the time to make sure that you understand all these things in the movie, and it repeats them over and over too. It keeps saying people's names. It keeps showing flashbacks. I mean,
because it has to.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable that it has to.
I'm just trying to get at that it's kind of an overcomplicated plot.
I use, we bring Wonder Woman up, and originally I brought it up just to make a point there. But Wonder Woman is a better movie. Yeah, so that's understandable.
Wonder Woman 84 has two characters that had been pre-established and then two new characters. Those are the main cast. Those are the only people you need to know.
But yeah, so Wonder Woman's original story who knows much about I don't know a lot about Aquaman before watching this movie. I don't know a lot about Wonder Woman before watching her original movie, but she has a few people to introduce. Aquaman has I need you to explain all of what Atlantis is and all of what this entire undersea thing is.
You had to explain all of what Themyscira was, and they got that done in the beginning of the movie, and I had no questions about that Amazonian society, so much so that they were able to leave the society and have the imprint of what it was for the rest of the movie.
Is it possible because it's just simpler? That she's an Amazonian, they are a tribe of women that live on an island that are protected by a god.
Did Atlantis need to be as complicated as it was? Did there need to be seven kingdoms?
I don't know. Is it because that's a source material and that's what it was supposed to be? I mean, Atlantis is inherently just one kingdom and all the other ones are just part of this larger plot.
But Themyscira, is that source material, or do they have artistic liberations to maybe simplify things and make things a little easier to digest and understand?
Maybe they want to make it broader in Aquaman and leave it open to do a lot more within the future.
Do you think we're going to have movies exploring the fishermen? Do you think the fishermen are going to play a big role? I do believe, I've heard that the Trench is going to have more to do in future movies, which the Trench, quite frankly, is one of the better scenes in the movie, but I want to get to that later. All right. So we spend a long time on plot. So I want to say before we go is that I think this is one of the things I like about Aquaman more. Its plot is, you can say that, oh, there's a lot of lore and that makes things more complex, but I think that the plot makes more sense and follows a thing that everybody can follow. Aquaman needs to beat his brother to become king. He also needs to gain this trident. We see that he cannot just beat his brother, so he needs to gain the trident, prove he is the true heir, defeat his brother to stop a war with the surface. And then he boom, 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 does those things. We see the path that it's having, and it seems simple, understandable, and uncomplex in a way that I think any person can digest. The problem is that it's such a simple plot that they add all this stuff onto it to pad out the runtime. Like, it is such a simple plot. All he needed to do was go get the trident. They told him, all right, you're going to get this trident. And he went and did that. That's it. That's the movie, but they had to add all of this stuff onto it just to pad out a runtime and to make it seem more grand and make it seem like he had a character arc. But he has a very light character arc, and we'll get into that when we get into theme. But okay, I do want to move off of plot now. Let's start talking about characters. So I want to really touch first upon our lead male and female characters. In Aquaman, it's Aquaman, and it's Mira, played by Jason Momoa, and Amber Heard. In Wonder Woman 84, we have Diana, played by Gal Gadot, and Steve, played by Chris Pine. Now, you can argue that these two characters have an advantage in their chemistry because they had an entire movie before. But you just can't deny that they have an undeniable chemistry together. They work so well together. You believe that they're attracted to each other. I do believe that Jason Momoa and Amber Heard are probably the best cast people in Aquaman. I just don't know if they really have a romantic vibe together. I don't know if they have romantic chemistry. I think they're good in their roles. I just don't think seeing them together on screen doesn't it's not just like, I'm not following their characters are like meant to be together sort of thing. You get what I mean?
No, I think I would probably agree with you in that. I mean, I think in Wonder Woman they had better chemistry. Steve and
Diana.
Yeah, I think they definitely have better chemistry than Aquaman and her did in this movie as well. I think it's in some ways that was just kind of like here she is. She's supposed to be that piece, and they do a little bit. I even mentioned when we were watching the movie a bunch of different times when I like to believe that DC keeps trying to steal things that Marvel is doing because they are so successful in that they keep trying to make their characters a little funny and do these funny Marvel-like jokes. And they're just not good. I don't know why they do it. In this movie, I pointed out that there's a few times when Aquaman and Mira make these weird little bantery comments between each other that are kind of funny, and I just think they fall flat. I don't know why they do them necessarily. I don't think it necessarily even shows them increasing their attraction or building up whatever relationship is supposed to be happening.
Yeah, we have this whole time when they're in the desert and they're in Italy where they're supposed to be like getting over their differences and falling for each other. But it's weird because it feels like such a long time in the movie of them like getting to know each other, but I don't feel like they're actually doing anything. Like it's like the one scene in Italy where he realizes how pretty she is as they're at the well and how kind she is, that's the turning point where they're like, oh, I guess I like this person. There's no other real like arc to them getting to know each other on a deeper level. We don't know anything about Mira other than she's trying to do what's right.
Yeah. So I think that comment is entirely fair. I mean, I think that really the main characters of Wonder Woman 84 are all pretty great. I mean, Pedro Pascal, Kristen Wiig, Gal Gadot, Chris Pine all do a fantastic job.
Yes. And I want to do a separate conversation about villains, but Aquaman has a lot more side characters in it that we can talk about. We can talk about how Willem Dafoe's character, how, like I said, like he's sort of a similar character as Robin Wright was in the first Wonder Woman movie. I just don't think like he really stands out to me. He's just kind of there. I've definitely seen Willem Dafoe do better work in other movies. And like Aquaman's dad, I like that guy. I like that actor. He's Jango Fett, Boba Fett in Star Wars. Nicole Kidman, she's not in it very much, but she does a good job because she's a great actress.
Yeah,
kind of underutilized. I'll be honest, but yeah, she does a good job. But it's really the core of the movie should be in your two leads. I think Jason Momoa as Aquaman is great.
Yeah,
I think Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is probably better. I think she's a more engaging character in every movie we've seen her in.
Yeah.
Not to say Jason Momoa is not great. I just think he's playing Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and she is Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Wonder Woman is supposed to be, I mean, she's just a more charming and better character where Gal Gadot can really utilize all of her acting skills to bring that out. Jason Momoa, I mean, in a sense, I think he's great as Aquaman, but you're right. There's not quite so much he can really do to make Aquaman more. I mean, it's Aquaman. He's literally, Aquaman until the newest DC renditions was essentially the butt of the joke for superheroes for a long time. Yeah.
So that is something to be said, that he's kind of revitalized the character in a lot of ways, but yeah. It's kind of just Jason Momoa. And then if you had never watched Wonder Woman, I believe you get an idea of who Steve Trevor is. I think you know this man. He's a pilot. He's an American guy. He's just a down home dude, and he's just sort of like genuinely likable. And I think Amber Heard does as good a job as she could with Mira, but Mira's not a fleshed out character. She is just a Aquaman, come down here. Aquaman, let's go get this trident. Aquaman, I love you.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's fair as well.
Yeah, and I think that has to do with the writing. Again, I think she does as good a job as she can, but she's not really a character.
Yeah. So I mean, now one thing, maybe you said that you want to talk about villains later.
I do want to get into villains now.
Okay, so because I think one of the standout characters of Aquaman is King Orm. And
Interesting.
I just think he's excellent as his role. I think he really brings the gravitas and I mean, like when he's talking to Aquaman at certain points where he's like, I don't want to kill you, brother. You know, I really wanted to, I believe him. I feel like he does a great job as playing King Orm as well.
Okay. So this is going to be an interesting conversation now. So what's notable about the two movies is that they have a main bad guy and a sort of side bad guy. So I think we can compare, and I think both of the side bad guys have similar issues, where Kristen Wiig as Cheetah and I believe his name is Yahya. I can't remember his last name, but the actor who plays Black Manta. After Aquaman, you may have recognized him in Black Mirror and in the Watchmen miniseries. He's a great actor in those. Like, I remember his face in Watchmen, so much so that when I realized he was in this movie, I was like, he was Black Manta. I did not remember that he played Black Manta, because I thought Black Manta is so forgettable in this.
I mean, I think I don't know if Black Manta's forgettable in this. I feel like
I remember the helmet.
Yeah,
I didn't remember what the guy looked like.
I think, well, the Black Manta, if you remember the helmet, then you didn't forget the character, because that's who Black Manta is. I mean, he's not even someone you ever see his face as far as a character goes in all the comics. But I think I feel like you get a lot of emotion. You really see a lot out of him in the moments that he is in. I think you get a lot out of that.
Yeah, but I think it's because I've seen him in other things, and I know that this is a really good actor, that he just feels so underutilized in this. Yeah. Where Kristen Wiig, I think, is also underutilized, but like I came out of it thinking I want more of her. I came out of Aquaman like, why was Black Manta in that? Like, I didn't question why Cheetah was in Wonder Woman 84. I was just like, why didn't they have more of her? Even you said you could have cut Black Manta out of the movie.
Yeah, no, I definitely said you could cut. I think you could take Black Manta out and put him into its whole second movie. Like, you could make that the beginning of the next movie we're in.
Yeah, and Cheetah could be her own next movie as well. But you don't need to cut her out for it. If anything, most of the criticisms I've heard is that maybe she should have been in it more.
I mean, I think that's because Kristen Wiig she's brought into the story. She's not a villain to begin. She becomes a villain by the end. She transitions. She's really a feature of the story. She's an ally to Diana,
which allows you to engage with her as a villain. You're able to sort of empathize with her and get a connection with her. With Black Manta, he's kind of he's a bad guy who does bad things, and his dad sort of seals his own fate, and Aquaman just doesn't decide to save him. And for that, Black Manta's like, I hate you. My dad shot this thing that got himself killed, and you weren't willing to save him after we murdered a bunch of innocent people. That, I understand him wanting to kill Aquaman. I just don't care, and I don't want to see him. Based on that alone, it's boring.
That's fair. But I mean, again, that whole moment is really supposed to show the Aquaman not being merciless. That one thing about Aquaman, which we see develop over time, is that he is merciless. He does not have mercy. He protects the innocent, but he does not care. If you did bad things, you can go fuck yourself, which is not what Superman would do. Superman would save that guy too.
Yeah, but Black Manta could have been removed from that scene, and he could have just let the dude, if his son wasn't there and he just let that dude die on the ship, he still would have shown his own mercilessness. The dude could have just been like, please save me. He's like, you killed innocent people. I'm not going to save you. You made your own bed.
Yeah, I mean, but then their whole point was that they're trying to set up Black Manta. There've been no, we know what the purpose of them being in the submarine ends up being, but
like you could have like shown like later on in the movie, like Black Manta come up and like he killed my father at the beginning of the movie without needing to like waste time on like Black Manta was kind of at the height of his power. He had the plasma thing. Like if he's in the next movie, like he's just like, it's up to them to make it more interesting, but like I've already seen him lose twice. Like, why do I care?
I mean, I don't know what you exactly mean about how you can come back and say he killed my father, because I think in movies you don't want people to tell you things, because then that loses significance. We got to see that. Hey, that was a moment where you see a guy trying to save his father, and his father says, "No, you need to go." Even if they're villains, like you can connect with that a little bit. Anybody would want to save their father. They would want someone that like someone has the power to keep your father, whether you're evil or not, keep them from dying. You would want them to help you.
Yeah, you could have. He could have been in the scene and then come up at the end of the movie like, I want to get revenge. But they had to make him this like such a big character that really didn't add anything. All right, but yeah, so those are the side villains. We get into the main villains. We have Max Lord as the Dreamstone dude and Patrick Wilson as King Orm. I think Pedro Pascal as Max Lord. Like, I think that character could have been unremarkable in different hands. He kind of steals the movie. For me personally, like, especially at the end, like all the stuff with his son is just so like, he's such a good fucking actor. He humanizes this like piece of shit guy better. Like he just makes him like believable as a character. Whereas King Orm is just like, I'm bad.
Yeah.
And I think Patrick Wilson's a good actor. I think he was kind of miscast in this because, and I said this while we were watching it, I'm supposed to believe that Patrick Wilson is younger than Jason Momoa and grew up with Amber Heard's character like in childhood, like because they were taught by his mother, supposedly. But I can look at him and I know that Patrick Wilson has 10 years on Amber Heard at least, and is definitely older than Jason Momoa.
I mean, I think that could be potentially a personal thing, because you watch movies all the time where someone maybe looks a little older or not quite as whatever their real age is supposed to be in the movie. Here, I mean, I didn't notice that. I never thought like, wow, he looks way older than them. I mean, I just was like, yeah, this is his brother. This is his younger brother. That's how old they all are. Like, it all just made sense to me. I would think that may be a personal thing, but it's a fair point to make.
Like, but me pointing that out, like, do you honestly believe that King Orm, his character looks younger, that he's supposed to be the little brother?
I mean, they both look like grown men. He doesn't look older. I think they could be the same age, or he could definitely be younger.
I don't see it. It maybe it's shaped by the fact that I've seen that actor in other things.
They look like both grown men. I think it doesn't necessarily track with what their ages are supposed to be, because I think this movie is made in how old are they supposed to be? 1985 is when she shows up. We assume that, so 15 plus 18 years old. So he's supposed to be what, 33? Aquaman's supposed to be 33, and Orm's supposed to be 30. So maybe to say that they are that old, I don't know. Like, can Patrick Wilson be 30? Yeah, I think he could be 30.
So I did look up their ages, and Jason Momoa is 6 years younger than Patrick Wilson. Patrick Wilson, born in 1973.
Yeah, again, that's fine. It's immaterial. We're all, again, the audience. I don't think most people think, wow, Patrick Wilson so much older than Jason Momoa in this movie.
I mean, maybe a lot of people don't, but for me, it sort of takes it out that this 45-year-old is supposed to be playing someone that's younger than Jason Momoa. It's weird to me.
But if you just suspend your disbelief and say, okay, well, this is the actor and that's the character.
What I'm saying is he didn't need to be cast as that role, and I think he was cast because the director, James Wan, likes him.
Yeah,
and has used them in other movies.
And he also does a good job at the performance.
I think he does a serviceable job. But like I said, Pedro Pascal brings heart, brings character to this person. King Orm, like, what are his motivations? all that I can get from this guy is that he wants to be Ocean Master and he wants to rule everything.
He wants to be Ocean Master, but also they spell it out when he has Aquaman chained in front of him. He says they polluted our oceans. They've done things to our children. They've done these things.
I think he's saying that to be political. I don't get the feeling that he legitimately believes those things. I think he's just sort of like been fed propaganda from his father that the humans are despicable, and he's using those as like tools to like sort of gin up his public to agree with him that, yeah, you're wrong. Like your humans are evil. Like he's scapegoating. He's pointing out the bad things with humans and only using those things to justify his means of why he needs to be Ocean Master. Why does he need the other kingdoms to fight back? Why can't he go up and try to make peace with the humans? No, he wants to be in control.
So, I mean, I think a motivation of wanting to become Ocean Master, a wanting to become the most powerful, that's a basic motivation for many villains. But
it's boring, though.
But I think it has I think what he says, maybe that is political, but it's also 100% true. I mean, anybody that watches a movie about Aquaman, and the guy says, the reason we want to attack the surface because you're polluting the waters. Like most people in the world, I mean, not world, maybe most people in the U.S., many people are aware that we are polluting the waters. That like their ocean acidification, that the coral reefs are being like destroyed. That there are heaps and heaps of trash out there. That we had oil spills. Like we know that that's a thing, and it is appealing to the fact like why wouldn't people be outraged? Like why wouldn't Atlanteans say, yeah, what the hell's wrong with them up there? They're literally destroying our world down here. One of the arguments that's made by the other king is, well, just let them destroy each other. And he says no, because they're going to destroy us first, which I mean is fair. Like if there were to be a nuclear war overhead, and it was to all that nuclear fallout would rest in the waters, and everything would basically just die. So their fates are all intertwined. Now, Orm's way of dealing with this: attack the surface land and make them bow to our will. We are of greater power. We can overpower the surface land because we have greater technology and there's more of us or whatever. But the premise or what they want to be is no, let's live in union. Let's be together. Aquaman is the bridge between these two things because he is of both worlds and he can make us coexist. That's the better way to do things. Orm says no, dominate them so that we can prevent them from destroying us.
What I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that his arguments are incorrect. I'm saying that they are just rhetoric. I don't think it's really I think his motivation is power, not protecting his kingdom.
Yeah, and that's power, a fair motivation.
But it's not interesting, and that's all that I get out of him is that he wants to be powerful. He wants to be Ocean Master.
Yeah, he's kind of like a basic villain in that way. I mean, and I think that's fine. Like, what's wrong with him being a basic villain?
Because with superhero movies, and one of the big criticisms with the MCU in particular is that boring villains, like if your villain is boring, then your hero needs to be way more interesting. And Aquaman's fine, but like again, if we agree that Aquaman's good, but maybe Wonder Woman's a little more interesting, and we give that Wonder Woman's bad guys are more interesting, then what does Aquaman have?
But Ares and Wonder just to say Wonder Woman's now 1984, I definitely agree. Pedro Pascal, better job. Wonder Woman, the first one, her villain was terrible.
Yeah, but we're not arguing that movie had so many other things going for it that made it work.
Exactly. Her last movie had good things going for it. Sure. This movie has what this movie kind of is a big action spectacle. And of that, it still has a followable plot that is reasonable with maybe some forgettable-ish characters, but and a lot of lore tied up in it. That's necessary to what Aquaman is supposed to be. We need to learn about Aquaman and that journey.
I get that, but what I'm saying is that for me, characters really matter. And so, yeah, and this is sort of where I want to cap off the discussion of characters, that Wonder Woman 84 has an engaging lead character with good chemistry with her romantic lead. It has two villains who are played by good actors doing a good job. Aquaman has good actors who all feel like either like they're doing the best they can with what they were given, or that in the case of Patrick Wilson, I just think he was miscast. I think you could have gotten someone else. But, and this is where I want to sort of shift into a quick little sidebar, essentially, on the directors. I think that Patrick Wilson is in that movie because it's directed by James Wan. James Wan, for those you don't know, is one of the most prolific horror directors of the new millennium, arguably the best horror director, like hands down. He is responsible co-creator of the Saw franchise. He is co-creator of the Conjuring franchise. Actually, he's the creator of the Conjuring franchise. He's co-creator of the Insidious franchise. Conjuring and Insidious, we see where he got Patrick Wilson from. That's sort of where I think a lot of people know him from, being in those two franchises. But so we know, at least I know James Wan from these some masterfully created movies. The Conjuring, in my opinion, is the best horror movie, at least for me, best horror movie ever. Insidious is up there for me. The Saw franchise, like that, basically revolutionized what kind of horror movies were being made for years. So this dude is a significant guy, and he comes and does Aquaman, and you know what? I think he does a great job with making that movie look beautiful. The action, I said there's a lot of it, but it all looks good. It all looks great. Everything that's shot on surface is like immaculate, kind of like it's a very pretty movie. It's fun to watch. The trench scene, well, I'll remember that for years. I've remembered that since Aquaman. It's one of the lasting impressions of that movie. I think some of the underwater stuff gets a little iffy with the effects, but overall, I just think it's a very well-directed movie. But with James Wan, he has so much expectations kind of put on him that I think he gets a little lost in the characters. Whereas Patty Jenkins, I don't know a lot of her. I looked up her director filmography, at least for film. It was the movie Monster, where Charlize Theron won an Oscar, and then it's Wonder Woman, and then it's Wonder Woman 1984. And so we can see that her trajectory is a character-driven movie that won a Best Actor, a Best Actress Oscar for its lead. And then she does Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84, where she's really good with characters. And for me, character is kind of all that matters, or maybe not all that matters, but it can save a bad movie if you like the people on screen, at least for me. And she also sort of went into the movie with a theme in mind, whereas Aquaman felt like, I don't feel like it really had a theme. And do you, before we go into themes, do you have any thoughts about what I have to say about the directors? Because I know you're maybe not as, you don't really think about directors as much.
I think I appreciate you offering that information, because I think it is good and important, and definitely gives a good perspective on how these movies were made. So, but I don't really know much about the directors, so that's pretty much as much as
like me. Like, had I not told you who James Wan was, would you have known? Like, me telling you that he is behind like Saw, Insidious, Conjuring, like does that sort of change your perspective on like the movie you watched?
It really just makes me think, one, why did they have him direct that movie?
He had also previously directed Furious 7. So
okay.
he wanted to branch out of horror. I think he wanted to diversify.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he will be directing the next Aquaman as well.
Okay. I mean, knowing that, I mean, I think you made a point in the movie where you mentioned who the director was, when the trench scene. And yes, that definitely has I can see that a horror director element there, because that is a very stark scene where you're definitely kind of feeling this underwater, trapped, being surrounded. I mean, this rush. So I appreciate that scene, but I mean, otherwise it doesn't necessarily change how I view the movie. I would say it just definitely, I think it's impressive that a guy, I mean, maybe that has a background in horror, I think he still did a good job directing a huge superhero spectacle.
Well, yeah, I mean, see, I think the superhero stuff, a lot of that is like the studio steps in with like visual effects, but like the sort of day-to-day, like a lot of the like the cinematography and stuff, like the that stuff, I mean, that's on the cinematographer, but the director has a role in it. And so, like I said, Patty Jenkins did one feature film before Wonder Woman, and then she made Wonder Woman, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something to be said. Like,
Yeah.
she'd worked in TV and stuff, but yeah. And like, there have been all sorts of, like, the MCU is known for picking out like kind of no name directors and giving them Thor Ragnarok. And then Taika Waititi's like, I wouldn't say he's a household name yet, but like, I know who he is. And like,
Yeah, because of Thor Ragnarok. And I think he's done some other good things as well.
yeah, but like Thor Ragnarok was like sort of like a breakthrough, him playing Korg in the movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like, now he's like an Oscar contending director with Jojo Rabbit, which like maybe he would have made, like, would he have been given the opportunity to make that movie? But that's getting off the side. So Patty Jenkins, I think her detail for characters and her sight for a theme, I felt like this movie was hinging upon trying to get a theme across. And where it may not have successfully articulated the theme fully, it does try to get a theme across. I don't know if Aquaman's trying to get a theme across. So in Wonder Woman 84, the theme is clearly the truth. Truth is the most important thing. You can't take shortcuts. You can't cheat. You can't lie. And then there's a sort of side theme about like the capitalism of the 80s and like greed isn't always good. Greed isn't the answer to everything. But that's sort of the general theme to it. With Aquaman, I don't get a theme.
They do sort of try to touch on this mercy thing a little bit.
Which
we see that as like Aquaman's character arc, but we see how also Orm basically is, if you look at Orm as a parallel, he is the merciless one. He says, no, we're going to attack the surface dwellers and we're going to destroy them. We're going to literally go. I mean, he goes in to talk to the fisherman and says, bam, I'm stabbing you because you're weak. And, you know, there's no more, like in the sea, there's no mercy. We're going to go beat this other kingdom down, the brine, and force them to kneel to us. And, you know, when he says, I'll never, the Brine King says, I'll never, swear allegiance to you. And he says, okay, well, you're going to die. So we can see in some ways he is the merciless parallel, and Aquaman also is merciless in the beginning, but we see him take a little bit of character arc and learn a little bit. I mean, maybe this is why the fight with Black Manta, not only the first one shows him being merciless, and the second one shows him realizing, because I did that, I made an enemy and created more havoc in the world. Maybe that's not the right thing. We see at the end, he spares his brother, doesn't kill him. He's learned the mercy. It's a light character arc, and there's a little bit of that in the movie. But I would say you're fair to say it's not a major theme. There isn't a major theme to the movie.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where it's like, it's fine to have like a fun popcorn movie where you just like sort of shut your brain off and enjoy it. But like, when a movie can at least attempt a theme, I think there's value in that. And like even you said that the theme gets a little muddled in 1984, but you're able to walk out of the movie knowing that truth is important. That's what the movie wants you to know, that truth is what matters. Truth is everything. And like, little kids watching that movie, I think they'll walk out and be like, truth is important. Like, because it sort of spells it out, but like, it's there. It's got a message. It's wants to do something positive, even if it's not the most articulate at doing it. It's trying something.
And again, I can appreciate that about 1984, but I think you're right. And this really, Aquaman's point is, it's not trying to be a thematic movie. It's not trying to teach you anything. It is supposed to be a superhero introductory movie where it gives you all this information on Aquaman, shows you how he becomes King of Atlantis, all these things. And really, it's just a spectacle. And it does what it's trying to do as a movie. If Wonder Woman is trying to achieve this theme and show that and still have all these things, that is great. And movies with themes are awesome. I love watching movies with themes. I love exploring that. But I think a lot of people also like big action movies that don't have themes. And Aquaman, in a sense, is that. And it is a spectacle. There's, like you mentioned before, tons of great looking fight scenes, tons of great looking things to see, really well shot stuff. Again, some of the wonky things with underwater, but I mean, you're trying to make a a whole movie that's half underwater, and I think they do as well as they could possibly do, especially with hair effects and things. They're doing pretty good, I think, in that aspect. And I think it goes back to that's what that movie is, right? But plot is always important in every movie. How a plot develops and how it feels and resolves and everything is important. And if plots don't quite make sense, then you lose people. You lose anybody. Now, I mean, if you go into Aquaman thinking, I want to see some theme and everything, well, you're just going to be disappointed. But if you just go watch it and take it for what it is, what you had mentioned was how you approached Wonder Woman 1984. You're just going to take it for what it is, and it gets a little ridiculous. If you take Aquaman for what it is, it's learn about Aquaman. Maybe there's a lot of lore, but you definitely learn about him and watch his journey and this simple and followable plot towards him becoming, and see this big spectacle and all these big things happening. Wonder Woman, the plot just gets entirely away from it at one point. I mean, we can follow it at first, and then it just becomes so completely so totally ridiculous you can't even believe some of the things because of the wishing. I think one of the inherent failures here is the wishing just gets to be too much, and it doesn't follow rules that help all of us to understand and keep being able to follow. It just becomes, oh, well, I'm going to go get on TV and just tell everybody to wish about things. And then Wonder Woman says, like, everybody, you need to have the truth. Like, they push this big truth thing, but like truth wasn't necessarily what made all the, I mean, again, the fact that the idea,
the wishes are lies.
The wishes are lies.
Yeah.
And that ties together somewhat, but not entirely. It's not like all those people were, in fact, if anything, you'd say those people are for wishing for what they truly wanted. They truly wanted those things to happen, and they had the opportunity.
But those things were,
but they gained them in a non-good way.
Through a shortcut. Yeah.
And that's fine, but again, that's the way that it all resolves itself. How she lassos him, and it shows to everybody, and they renounce his wish, and he sees it now. Somehow he sees that's happening to his son. I guess because she used her lasso of truth to show it to him.
It's shown earlier in the movie that the lasso
that she can show you the truth. I guess, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I just think everything gets so ridiculously convoluted with that plot. By the end, that most people I've talked to all say they got lost. Like they all were like, I don't know. That all just got and I feel like people agree with me that the plot gets too much there, and the characters carry the movie. The theme is pretty good and still there, but the plot lost everybody. And there's not enough entertainment going on throughout the movie where it stays being interesting. I think Aquaman, again, if you watch it for what it is, you stay entertained. You're like, look at all this crazy stuff. There's parts where they're walking around doing this, but it goes, bam, let's get to some action. Let's get to important plot points being done. Like Aquaman goes here, learns about the thing he has to do. Boom. Then he's fighting his brother. And even there's some stuff in between them. Then it's, okay, we're going to go to where we need to get the Trident. We need to get the information on the Trident. We're moving to either executing plot points or we're watching cool action scenes or cool scenes. And then there's a little bit of some of the other stuff in between as well. We get, but those don't last too long, and it doesn't make the movie get boring. Wonder Woman has a bunch of moments where we're just like watching things happen, and we're just like, okay, all right, and you're almost getting bored, and it's progressing the plot somewhat, but then also in some ways you're like, what are we watching this for? I mean, again, like the things with Steve and the Smithsonian, that's one thing. I just think there are parts of Wonder Woman where you don't feel very entertained. And I don't feel super engaged. Like I want to watch a movie. I want to be as engaged as I can be, but Wonder Woman kind of loses at some points. I know one of my friends kind of mentioned that he started falling asleep at certain points in Wonder Woman. And I'm like, you aren't falling asleep at any point in Aquaman. And by the end, it's, we're wishing for all these things. I'm going over here. I'm going to have this guy wish and give me all the oil. And now this wall's being erected. And I'm going to go this way. Now I need to go to the president, and he needs to wish for this, and I need to wish for that. And all this stuff, it just gets to be too much. Too many things are going on. And as I tried to mention before, the whole point of the wishing, when it becomes everybody in the world can wish for these things, I can't believe that there weren't people wishing, because we cannot assume that Max Lord needs to say, all right, your wish is granted every time. Because we see, so Max Lord was like, yeah, wish granted to the guy that, killed it. Like he's not like necessarily picking and choosing at this point. They're just wishing and getting their wish. And then he's choosing what thing he wants to take from each person.
Yeah.
So again, asking me to believe that one, the whole thing about projecting himself to the world and that works now. I mean, I guess that's just how the wishing stone worked. He had to touch people before and had to hear them say it out loud, but whatever.
Yeah.
That just works. We'll just take that. I mean,
Yeah. That
nobody in this world was wishing for greater things that were irretrievable, that couldn't be taken back. That somebody didn't say.
They probably did. They did. But it happened so quickly that they got undone, or the things didn't have a chance to really articulate and come into be.
And then what I also ask is that this world event happens and you don't think that the world has irrevocably changed? I mean, again, I know it's the DC universe, but again, this is 1985 and
it's magic.
Yeah, it's but we know that afterwards, we know for a fact that those, like, the wishes go back, but it doesn't make anybody forget what happened. So Russia and America fired missiles at each other. That definitely happened. Like, they're not just going to be like, okay, the missiles are gone now, but we definitely just declared war on each other. And that's, I mean, it is so big and huge, and all the things that could be happening with these wishes, whether they got returned back or not, that's complete chaos. You just broke tons of different infrastructures. You just like shattered political relations. Like, I mean, I can't see how the end of the movie is, it's Christmas. Like, we just go 6 months later, it's Christmas, everything's fine. I'm like, no, the world has changed from this. Like,
the end of Aquaman is he's let a Leviathan out of the ocean and called all of the ocean's creatures to one space to get killed in a all-out battle frenzy. And we're not supposed to think about the consequences of that. But in Wonder Woman, the literal magic dreamstone is too much to process.
So in Aquaman, that's a more current timeline. So we could see in the next movies how that did affect, how those actually did. And we do see that people said, like, they saw Atlantean warship in the kind of after credits thing.
Yeah.
It's mentioned that, like, we see pieces of metal and all these things. Like, so people noticed, like, the surface world noticed, but they still don't believe Atlantis is a real thing. And so maybe there's a cover up by the government. And maybe we see in the next movie that there are developments. What happens in Wonder Woman is in 1985. And we know that the DC timeline
84.
is 1984, whatever. Yeah, 1988. But we know that the DC timeline has continued on. So are we to say that the DC timeline has that Wonder Woman thing happening in it, and that Batman's best, again, maybe we're just, their continuity is not great, but in Batman v Superman, when he's doing research and finds out about Wonder Woman, he finds just that photo of her, not like anything about this wishing or any. I mean,
you never see her,
or that it's not a major historical DC thing now. That, like, at one point a bunch of like missiles were being like everybody basically declared war and all these things happened. I mean, I don't know. It just makes us go, everything's fine again, guys. Everything's fine.
Well, let's think Bruce Wayne was a kid at the time, and probably it's something that happened, but like, again, like, because it's magic, things get to be undone because it's magic. Like, I get that it's not, like, it's kind of a weak excuse, but like, the magic stone, like, people renounce their wishes, like, they learned their lesson, supposedly. Like, it's not the cleanest thing, but like, Aquaman literally ends without even addressing like whether or not what's happening between the Earth. And we have another movie to address that, but like, Wonder Woman ends the movie saying that it doesn't spell out how everything got cleaned up, but like, would it have been that interesting to you for it to like show how the magic like allowed people like people being presented with the end of times, maybe just wanting to go back to business as usual? Like, I think there's a parallel in the real world where people feel like things are worse than they've ever been before, and they just want things to go back to how it was. And especially in the 1980s, when like people could, like, the news stations could just be like, hey, that all happened, but we're resolving it. Like people don't have the internet to like just be like, dude, that just happened. Like, everything changed and it was the worst thing ever. Like the media could sort of just like tell people like, hey, this is something that happened, but we're just gonna move on past it and put some magic into play and all that stuff. And I know maybe that's not the best excuse in the world, but to say that makes the movie unforgivable. Like, and that the logic of the Dreamstone, look, the Dreamstone didn't have the best logic in the world before it became Max Lord, but once it became Max Lord, It was he decided what your consequence was. Like there are three people that use the Dreamstone as a stone. Diana, who lost her powers as a result of getting back Steve. And I'll give you the Steve taking over a person's body is problematic, but she loses her powers. That's the main downside. Diana wants to be like, or Barbara wants to be like Diana, and she gains all of that. What's good about that, but loses her humanity and loses what makes her like a good person. Like it's a clear give and take. And then Max Lord, he wishes to be the Dreamstone, but it takes away clearly his health at first, or maybe his son. But he keeps trying to get more wishes, and each of those wishes he's trying to give himself back something, so that like as things go on he keeps having to give up things. Like things get worse. Like he keeps saying that, you know, if I just keep taking stuff from the wishes, things will work out for me. But he doesn't have the ability to keep everything in control, because more and more and more is what he thought he needed, but it wasn't what he needed. Like it wasn't the solution. Like clearly what he thought was going to get him everything he wanted ended up with the world on the verge of nuclear chaos and his son in peril and alone without him. He lost his son. Like he was able to maintain his health and everything. He was able to do all the things, but like through whatever means it was, he did lose his son. He wasn't with his son when his son was in danger, when the world was about to end. Those three people had clear consequences for their actions, and every wish that he made, he was the one that decided the consequence.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and that all works back into points that you made, that things like the theme work, but a lot of the actual things that go on still kind of just are, again, wishing I think gets complicated when you put it in any kind of movie.
Yeah.
If you don't make the wishes have rules that we can all follow and say, okay, this is how the wishes work and yada yada, but it just kind of stops following rules. Things don't is it do the wishes manifest, or do they just occur? Or
it depends on the wish. Like some of the wishes happen pretty quickly. Like the Steve thing took a little while.
Yeah, and then there's things about the movie that kind of don't make sense, or aren't, again, things that just kind of lose you, like where I'm just not. That's that thing right there. You mentioned the Steve thing. He inhabits somebody's body, so I guess like there's a weird thing that his soul can't come back into its own body, even though we've seen tons of things get manifested. It can't make bodies, can't make a body, but we can bring back a soul. Just gotta use another guy's body. So that's kind of a weird thing. I like to point out that there's other things that are even like some other things I don't like. I just want to go back and point out some things that also turn me off to the movie. One, some of the production, some of the how it was put together is you'd say some things are bad about Aquaman. Check Wonder Woman running at super speed down a road. Oh, yeah, that was awful.
I think
check Wonder Woman flying.
I think some of that is a result of post-production being probably scaled down, which that's not a best excuse, but like it is what it is.
Yeah, I just want to say, if we're going to talk about Aquaman, which I think they did as well as they could for something that was difficult, they're just trying to get Wonder Woman running on a road and flying through the air, and that looked weak to me. I think there's a lot of useless things in there as well. Again, just to speak about parts that lost me, maybe not even as to say that don't go with the plot, the theme, the this and that. Wonder Woman could fly? I didn't even know that was a thing. Maybe I don't know enough about Wonder Woman lore. Maybe she can fly, but I never knew she was able to fly before. Yeah. She can create invisibility. Didn't know that was a thing. They're just making it up. Again, maybe we just accept all that. Whatever. But it definitely does break. Why doesn't she do either of those things in Batman vs Superman? So we're just breaking continuity, which kind of is a little annoying. DC, are you making a cinematic universe, or is all this supposed to make sense?
I don't think they are anymore. And that's where a lot of the universe stuff, like I'm stopping paying attention to that, like how this affects like the Batman movies later on, because it's like, look, this could be a separate universe. You know what?
Yeah, and if it is, then that's cool. I mean, honestly, that's cool with me.
It hasn't said that though.
Yeah, but as far as I know, they're still trying to make a shared universe and make all these things work together. So that seems silly to me. The whole thing with the armor, don't even understand what the point of it was supposed to be in the movie, other than to make an action figure, other than to say, "Here's let's sell a toy." That's because
Well,
even in the fight, it wasn't useful.
So
But
no, rewatching it, she came in and it helped her deflect like the turrets coming at her, and it like Cheetah literally like wore down that armor like fighting at it. So like it did protect her, and then she tired out Cheetah in the fight, but like
was she tired? I don't know that she was tired.
Like she was like hacking at it, so she had to exert some effort.
Yeah, of course, but I don't know that it necessarily. There's no indication that Cheetah was tired. So I mean, I don't know that that's valid. I just think I think the armor was useless. It was kind of just a thing that was added in for the toy.
I do want to address one thing, and I had the same thought. I want to make it clear, and the movie does make it clear actually, that Barbara does not make a second wish to become the Cheetah.
Yeah.
Max Lord does that to her because Max Lord takes other people's wishes and uses that to give Cheetah.
She does say she'd want to be an apex predator, I guess, but that's kind of an interpretation.
Yeah, he says that, she says that to him, and then he uses the powers of the wishes to give her those Cheetah things to do what he thinks that she wants.
Yeah.
And furthering the lack of humanity. So yeah, I wanted to make that clear on rewatch. Because I had thought she had made a second wish also, but that's not what happened.
Yeah. No, so I mean, again, so there's some other points that I wanted to mention that kind of just left me a little bit like, what with the movie?
Let's take this as final thoughts.
Yeah, so I would say that everything I've said here kind of are my final thoughts. I would say actually through this conversation, you helped me to understand how to appreciate Wonder Woman a little better. But I don't think, again, second watch, trying to not just being absorbed in the first watch of the movie would probably be my most genuine and when I'm maybe going to enjoy it most. And I still kind of came away being confused. As a person that likes movies and watches them and wants to be engaged with them, I still was like, this just doesn't seem to work. So there's something in there that's failing to me. And even if again, the characters are great. Everything that you said is valid. And in some ways, this conversation has maybe made me appreciate it more, but there's still something that failed. And on the second watch, I just saw more things that maybe I can't quite remember all of right now that just became more apparent that I didn't appreciate. Second watching Aquaman, still liked it. Still actually, again, saw a lot more poor things and dumb things, but I still enjoyed it. I was entertained.
All right. And then my final thoughts, I think, is that upon both watches of Aquaman, it's kind of a hollow spectacle is how I'd have to describe it. And then watching Wonder Woman, it's like messy fun. That's how I would describe those two movies in 2 words. Like I got fun out of Wonder Woman. I enjoyed what I watched. Like the touching stuff between Max Lord and his kid. Nice. But yeah, I get it's not perfect. And neither is Aquaman, but I just thought that Wonder Woman 84 was trying to be something and didn't quite hit it. I thought that Aquaman just wanted to be a spectacle, and it did that, but that's maybe it could have been more. They didn't try for more with Aquaman.
Yeah, but I think that was legitimate, and I'm okay with that. So, but I think that's really enough for now.
Yeah, we went really long on this one, thinking this is going to be a 2-parter. We'll see.
Yeah. So, but until next time, this has been Robert.
This is Ryan,
and we'll catch you later.
All right.